Welcome back, folks. Today I have a new friend, someone that there's been instant alignment with, instant energy, some fun stories already to share, Mr. Cary Jack. And what I'll say in terms of how Cary and I met each other, we were at a cool event called FRD Live, run through Front Row Dads this past December, and we're playing volleyball, having some good old sweat time. And
Yeah.
I noticed, I'm like, damn, this dude's getting up. He's spiking. And so I saw you, just for the record. I might not have told you that. I see
Oh,
athletes when we're doing FRD sweat time. And then we go and grab a glass of water and just jump into like, hey, where are you from? What's going on?
yeah.
Why are you here? And what struck me instantly, Cary, is that as we were talking about sports, and I mentioned to you, oh yeah, like I'm a soccer player. You quickly asked why I don't play anymore.
Yep, yep.
And that was an important question for me because when we get into those discussions, like, oh, you love this, why don't you do that anymore? Especially in like an environment that can be more entrepreneurial, like FRD Live, those are actually the discussions I value. And those are the
Mm,
discussions I remember. Like I met Cary through playing volleyball. He asked me why I'm not playing soccer, explained how
yeah,
you had just recovered from an injury.
yeah.
So I just wanted to share that as a starting point and now give you the space to introduce yourself. Who is Cary Jack?
Yeah, man. Well, I do want the update. Have you been playing?
No, not yet.
Oh, come on, bro.
Put me on the spot. Yeah.
I mean, we definitely need to get you playing. Like,
Yes.
I played, dude. I played this past weekend and I was garbage, because it was 7-on-7. But
Outdoor?
yeah, outdoor. Oh, I'm
Nice.
in Florida right now. We're snowbirding. I live in Montana
Oh, cool,
normally,
man.
but yeah, snowbirding down here in Florida. My wife and I, we pick a warm spot for 4 months, and next winter we're going to the Philippines because Montana gets pretty brutal, like Colorado, you know. So, but anyway, yeah, man. Cary Jack is just a happy hustler, just looking to help people systematically harmonize ambition and well-being. Truthfully,
That's it.
I mean, there's a
That
lot
can
more
be
to
it.
it.
That can be it. I just want to make sure that that's you feel complete with that.
I feel complete with that. I mean, I'm wearing many hats. It depends on the day. Father, obviously, dedicated father. I have a newborn baby boy, 5 month old named
Mm.
Kaizen, and a loving husband to a spicy Latina named Steph. And she teaches me a lot about patience, and I teach her some things too. um, God bless her. And yeah, man, just a grateful dude. Grateful for
Mm.
you.
Dude, grateful for you too. I love that answer, Cary, because and I think I challenged you in a friendly way to ask, like, is that it? Because, dude, some people, they like to talk about who they are in the world. And I respect that. I can hold space for that. But you were very quick. Didn't feel rehearsed. It's just like, this is what I'm doing. And of course, now I have to ask, because I don't know the full story. We need to know how the happy hustle came about. So where do you want to
Mm.
drop in there?
Well, you know, I feel a little backstory might be
Yeah.
relevant, because prior to actually happy hustling, I was just hustling,
Mm.
and maybe some of your audience can resonate. I've always been an entrepreneur. My parents were both entrepreneurs. My dad was a mechanic by trade, owned a repair shop, and then my mom was a chiropractor. And so I got to see what a small business took to run and operate. And it was um, not a loving marriage to say the least. Very tumultuous. They got divorced, and it was many years of hardship between the two, but regardless, they did teach me entrepreneurship from an early age and what it took. And so I always wanted to be my own boss. And fast forward, multiple companies and failing forward, I actually had something going that was, had some merit. We built a tech algorithm, your space, tech, and we were quantifying feedback on basically how to get better by asking a survey after you performed in the entertainment industry. Because I was in the entertainment world, one foot as like a commercial actor and model, and um, I was realizing that I would do better when I got feedback from the casting director. So we created this algorithm. it started to get merit in other industries, which I didn't see. The dating industry, the job
Mhm.
industry, anywhere where feedback would be beneficial, this kind of algorithm could plug in and help someone. And our whole shtick was, in order to grow, you need to know.
Mm.
Fast forward even further, we had this like massive 7-figure VC funding deal on the table, partnerships with Microsoft and IBM at play. We were grinding for like 18 months. I was living in New York City, just walking the tech founder walk and dressing the part and just basically faking it till we make it kind of thing, my brother and I. And we got to this place where we had this contract for this large sum of money and a 5-year clause, rightfully so, beholden to the deal. Like, if we're going to take this money, we need to be in it for the next 5 years. And it just, it was so heavy, man. I was so burnt out.
Mhm.
I was so tired because all I was doing was working.
Yeah.
I wasn't prioritizing my family, my fitness, faith, fun, friends, anything. And so I was literally burnt out. And it came to this head in New York City at I was renting a crappy apartment in Queens, New York with my brother, and we were sharing a king size bed actually.
Nice.
And yeah, it was really bumming it. And I literally had this contract at our little coffee table that was stained, and it was just a dump. The whole place was a dump. And I was like, dude, I can't do it. And he was like, me either. And so we ripped it up. We said no to the funding deals, no to the partnerships. I
Wow.
moved to Bangkok, Thailand for the next year. And my brother went back to the University of Florida to get his master's in sustainability. And it was in Thailand where the Happy Hustle was born. That's really where I started to put the happy in my own hustle. And I figured out a better way per se to work and live in alignment. And yeah, as they say, the rest is history.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know parts of that.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many things we could dive into. We could talk about burnout. We could
Yep.
talk about, you mentioned a bunch of F's, which I thought was awesome. Like I was out of line with family, fitness, fun. So fun, which showed up for you and me when we first met. And
Yeah.
then Thailand, dude, I love that country. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
That's where you went, because when I think of Thailand, it reminds me of some F's. In fact, dude, I got one of my earlier tattoos on my forearm is Thai script Rokun, means be
Ah,
grateful, and I got this after a trip with my brother in Thailand. This is years before I had a
nice.
family. So that country has a special place for me, and the reason I got that, Carrie, is because when I was there, I felt that. I felt welcome. I felt
Mm,
more family. I felt fun. We had a lot of fun, which I probably can't talk about on this podcast.
same.
And it's a free place where there was more people smiling than I had seen normally.
Yeah.
As I look
Yeah.
behind you as a happy hustle and see that smiley face, like it reminds me of Thailand.
Yeah. Yeah. Thailand's uh Thailand's awesome. I mean, they call it the land of the smiles,
Is that right?
so
Oh, okay.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely it was a huge part of my journey. And I think um I do recommend everyone just travel because I think the best education is abroad and learning different culture, meeting new people, eating different foods. It's so valuable and it can really put your life in perspective, right? Like how blessed we are
Mhm.
living in the United States of America, being males, me being a white male, like we hit the lottery. It's like it's just there's a lot of things that traveling can put in perspective and I don't take any of it for granted.
Yeah, I sense that. I sense that from you. So from the discussions we've had and the interactions, you have come across as someone who operates from a place of abundance, and that's not as easy as, like, I mean that in a sincere way, Carrie, because I've met a lot of people that you'd think they have abundance, but they don't operate from abundance. They operate from fear.
Mm,
And energetically, it's very different, right? A lot of the
yeah.
times, and this is something I want to reflect back to you. A lot of the times, when you are talking, we were talking before we hit record about backpacking trips, which we're going to discuss. Like we're smiling, we're laughing, the
Yeah,
creative
yeah.
parts of us are coming out. But what's interesting is when you started talking about your story, and you said, hold on, we got to go back. At first, I was hustling. Both of our energy shifted. We both got serious because we know
Mm,
what that world is like,
yeah, yeah,
and it's not, I mean, it has its place, and I'm sure you learned a ton from it in
yeah.
hustling. I did too, but now I recall that when I was hustling, I was doing it from a place of fear.
Mm, yeah. Same.
And what I wanted to ask you about as you kind of transition, some of these big words that are behind you that I've sensed from you: passion, purpose, positive impact. So
Mm.
tell me a little bit about that. Now that you are happy hustling and in like no, actually I'm not going to assume too much. How are you creating impact now that's more in alignment like you said?
Yeah, and I will say like the words behind me are very cliche buzzwords,
Sure, sure.
and it's like sometimes I'm a little embarrassed by them. I'll be honest, but the reason I keep them is because I define them. And passion is like that inward calling on my heartstrings, right? And then purpose is that outward serving mission and ultimately to make a positive impact, right? Like, what's it all for if you're exploiting people negatively or the earth's resources, right? So, when I talk about happy hustling, those concepts have to be a part of the picture. Um, and now, you asked how we're happy hustling. I mean, mainly, um, we help entrepreneurs who are on the brink of burnout or, potentially burnt out. Like what we say is systematically harmonize ambition and well-being,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ambition meaning we're hungry for more, quote unquote, and to achieve, but how can we prioritize well-being, the state of joyous happiness throughout that process? So it's a system that we created, the soul mapping system. It's a framework. It's in the book. Yeah, it's just been a blessing in my life. Really, it just started by scratching my own itch, right? After burning out. I was like, okay, I need to take a step back and see like what are the key areas of life that give me energy and that I need to focus on. And so again, I think most businesses start by solving your own problem first and then you figure out like, okay, well I could do this for others. So that's similar in this nature as well.
Dude, I like that. Yeah, I like that you started with passions more about the inner game, purpose is the outer game, and then positive impact is kind of the why.
Yeah.
That's something I've sat with, Carrie, going going deep into the world of self-discovery, where I've spent a lot of time and now supporting others. I can get to a place where the why can, it's not always 100% clear because sometimes I want to rest, and that's just
Yeah.
me practicing self-care, which has its dance with impact, which has its dance with drive, because there is a part of me that wants to drive that entrepreneurial, like, oh, let's go do it. The athlete comes out. But I like that you have those simple words. I'll call them simple as a compliment. I don't think they're cheesy. And if you want, is there anything you wanted to share around that in terms of, because you're talking about how we kind of, you created a framework, a model around it. Are there any like key concepts that are worth just sharing with the audience? Like how these are some of the things I found on my path.
I mean, I'm happy to unpack it quickly if you'd like and just kind of run through the overarching framework. And, one thing that I like to do, even if you're up for it, I'm happy to do with you, which is a quick assessment of
Ooh,
the
okay.
10 different areas, and we could do it live on the air, and people can do it following along if they'd like.
I'm down. I'm down.
And then that way it's interactive, and also people listening can be a participant, and maybe really get some tangible value on where they might be lacking in their life right
I
now.
love that. Yeah, we're doing that.
Yeah, let's do it. So
Let's
get
go.
out a piece of paper if you got one near.
Yep.
And anyone listening, have a note-taking device if you're driving. Obviously,
Yes.
don't
Please don't
you
do
know,
it.
yeah, please don't injure yourself or others. But basically, I'm just gonna get into 10 different areas of life. We call these the 10 alignments,
Yeah.
and I'll just ask you to give yourself a score, an honest score in the last 30 days, not from like the rest, of
Right.
your whole life. It's like just your last 30 days. Just think about that. And five would be like an A. You're like crushing it. You're happy hustling in this alignment.
Mhm.
And then one is like an F, like you're failing. We need to prioritize change ASAP. And then, subsequently two, three, four, you can figure it out.
Yep.
So we'll get into it. The soul mapping framework is, what we say is your soul's map to the blissfully balanced promised land. Because in
Mm.
in in my world, yes, balance, it seems like this pie in the sky dream, but really, I truly believe balance equals happiness.
Mhm.
And if you can manage your personal and professional life accordingly, where it is systematically harmonized, you will be happy hustling.
Mhm.
So that's why the soul mapping framework is what it is. The S in the soul mapping framework stands for selfless service.
Mhm.
Okay, selfless service is the first of the 10 alignments. And I want you to just give yourself an honest score, one to five. Five is like you've been volunteering a lot, you've been giving your money, you've been giving your time to causes and people that need it. And that would be a five in the last 30 days. One is like, dang, you know what? I've been living largely for myself or for my family and really for my own personal gain, which is, it's okay, but it isn't maybe happy hustling per se, but let's give ourselves an honest score. So, if you're feeling brave, Ali, we could just, you could say your score as we go, or you could just total them up at the end, whatever you
I'm
feel
feeling
called to
brave.
do.
You want me to say now or later?
Let's say it. Go ahead.
Three. I'm three in that category.
Okay. Awesome. O is optimized health. Optimized health is like, mentally, physically, emotionally feeling optimized. That's a five. One is like you've been shoving crap down the pie hole, not taking care of yourself. You're just like, you're feeling lethargic, low energy. Where you at in this one?
Four.
Okay. And I figured that you're an athlete and a beast, so way to go. U is unplugged digitally. Unplugged digitally is a very tough one, especially for our entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah.
Five is like you're being very deliberate with your devices. You have tech barriers. You have like digital detoxes baked into your routine. One is like you're constantly on Netflix or YouTube, you're listening to podcasts, like there's no space per
Right.
se for silence.
Yeah. For
Where
that
you
one,
at?
I'm a five on that one.
Dang, dude, I've
I mean,
never,
that dude, this has been years of work
dude,
creating
I
agreement
just,
with myself and yeah, these things.
dude, that's rare. Like you're like the great white buffalo right now. So I want to just shout you out because truly, like that is like I've never met anyone who honestly gave themselves a
Well,
five.
I'll
And
tell you the consequence of that. Your friends think you don't know how to text message. Sometimes you forget business meetings, Carrie. I kid you not, not that much. Because the old me would, I'd be on time for everything.
yeah,
But
yeah,
now
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
literally say, hey, I am sorry, I was taking a walk. So it's this practice and this really, like, I have some pretty conscious agreements. And one of them is with my devices, how my family sees me with my devices, how we interact with devices. I was just telling you before we hit record, like, bro, I'm pretty zoomed out these days, unless it's a podcast or like something that I chose to
Yeah.
do. So I feel grounded in that five. Yeah.
Dude, that's epic, truly. L is loving relationships, right? Loving relationships is like, you know, well, first of all, what is it all for if you don't have love in your life, right? So, five is you're crushing it with your partner, your family, your inner circle, your friends, your children, you're being present, there's plentiful pleasure. One is like, there's angst and despair and arguments. Where you at in this one?
Loving relationships with I'm really focusing on like holistically, not in this house, this home only. I'd say a
Yeah.
three. Yeah, I'd say a
Okay.
three. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, this is just a baseline. So
Yep.
but yeah, that's the first part. That's the soul part. So everyone out there should have four scores. Okay.
Yep. Hmm.
Now we got the mapping part. So M stands for mindful spirituality.
Hmm.
Mindful spirituality, I really don't care one religion or another. I truly respect everyone's choice. I just think it's important to have faith in something bigger than yourself. And I think you should connect to a higher power, whether it's through breath work or meditation or prayer, church, whatever.
Mhm.
So give yourself a score, 1 to 5.
4.
Awesome. A, abundance financially. Abundance financially, people think this is like the most important one, right? But it's not. And
Mhm.
you see, when billionaires kill themselves, people are like, why did it happen? Well, because money doesn't inherently buy happiness, right? It can support happiness, but I don't feel that it is, you know, the golden ticket. And so I just want you to give yourself a score. Do you have a system for saving, investing, spending wisely, right? Or are you living paycheck to paycheck and fear your finances?
Mhm.
1 to 5.
3.
Awesome. The first P, passionate hobbies. Okay, passionate hobbies. Um, where you at in terms of like doing fun things for yourself, like actually, uh,
Playing
like
soccer.
playing soccer, I was gonna say, or, fly fishing or doing martial arts or whatever, like painting. I just went painting recently with my brother and sister. And it was so fun, just getting creative. It's like little stuff like that can just fill your cup. Anyway, one would be you're not doing any of that stuff. You're just, doing stuff for your clients or your family or your kids, but you're not filling your own cup. So where you at?
Does this include things around nature, which aren't a hobby, it's a lifestyle?
So nature's actually its own category.
Okay, so in this, man, I'm a 2. Yeah, you nailed it with the first question. Are you playing soccer? No, I'm not.
Okay. Well, there we go. The second P, personal development. I truly believe you're either growing and evolving or you're shrinking and dissolving. So we have that choice. And you just ask yourself, like, how often are you reading,
Mm.
listening, watching things that are educational and inspirational and informative, right? Like this podcast.
Mhm.
Um, One would be you're just reading rom-coms or watching rom-coms, reading like uh whatever, fairy
Yeah.
tale books, maybe stuff that isn't relevant to your personal growth. So where you at in this one?
I'm a 4 here.
Nice. And then I is impactful work. Impactful work going back to, the passion, the purpose, the positive impact. Like you know, how inspired by your career do you feel? And unfortunately, bro, I feel like we're super fortunate, but most people, studies show 3 out of every 4 employees, specifically by Gallup State of the Global Workplace study, state that they are unhappy and disengaged with their work. And
Mhm.
so impactful work is lacking for a large amount of people, but you give yourself an honest score. Like, how impactful do you feel your work is? And, 1 to 5.
Mhm. I'd be a 4.
Nice. And then, and nature connection. So,
Mm.
bringing it home with nature connection.
Yeah.
This is like getting outside, away from our devices, away from toxic blue light and recycled air and, you know, 5G and all this EMFs. And, oh, by the way, protecting Mother Earth as well, right? Like this
Yes.
is a part of it, like being a conscious consumer, supporting B corporations, having a sustainable supply chain in your own business, right? Like these type of things. Um, this is all a part of the nature connection piece. So where you at in this one?
I'm a 5 on this one, brother.
Nice,
Yeah.
dude. You're crushing it. So now everyone should have 10 scores, you included, bro.
Yep.
And so I want you to tally up your scores.
Okay.
And if you are a 40 or above, congratulations, you're happy hustling. If you are a 39 or below, well, we got a little work to do. So where'd you land?
39.
Oh, dude, nice
Yeah.
work. I
I
mean,
didn't
you're
make
right.
the heavy hustle was right on the cusp. Well, that's what
Dude,
it is.
if
Yeah.
you just played soccer,
Mm.
right?
Oh, I love that, man. That was fun and
Yeah.
informative. So thank you. I like that.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's part of how you present it, Carrie. Like, and just even doing it on a recording, like it felt very natural. And even though we could have a conversation on each of these, right?
Yeah.
I liked how it's 10 clear categories
Yeah.
that I didn't have to think too hard, right? Because sometimes we create these assessments like, shit, I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know. But that was it was easy, it was simple, it was even kind of fun. Like I wasn't resistant to any of this. So
That's really great
props for
feedback.
the assessment.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm just gonna unpack it even further. Like that is what the whole book is about, is the 10
Mm,
alignments.
mm,
And so we actually have an acronym within the soul mapping acronym for each, right? So for like, if you're lacking in selfless service, our acronym to enhance your score is gift,
mm,
give, insight, finances, and time. Right. So, like within each of those alignments is a separate acronym. I spent a lot of time on this whole framework, bro.
right,
I
right.
went like real heavy in the IP game because I know I've taken those assessments where you're like, there's resistance, there's friction. And I was
Mm,
like, I really want this to be like a really wholesome way to quantify life and like really how I'm doing. You know what I mean? And it's
yes.
like I feel like there's some out there, it's like mental, physical, emotional, like, or like again, even the 5 F's, like faith, family, fit, like, but it still was missing some pieces for
Mhm,
me. And so that's why I thought I needed to expand it to 10 different areas of life. And sure, you could probably find 20, you could probably find 30, but that's good feedback. And I appreciate that, man, because that's really what the book is all about. And the core principle, the happy hustling throughout the whole book, I mention it, but it really is to prioritize each of these with equal importance,
mhm,
but focus on one at a time.
mhm.
Right. So prioritizing each of the 10 alignments, like when I'm rocking the mic with Ali, I'm here 110%. But then when I'm on daddy duty right after this, I'm going to be 110% with Kaizen, my little boy.
Right.
But the problem that I see, and you can, I'm sure, attest, when people are at work, they're thinking about their family, or when they're with their family, they're thinking about work. So they're not doing either effectively. Right.
I love that, dude. I like that not only having the 10, which feels very holistic, but then what you said is important. Bring focus to one and be there, be with
Yeah.
it, present. Because that's part of that can be the overwhelm I've noticed with assessments I use and assessments I've seen in the world is like, great, I got all this feedback. Now, where do I start? And people get overwhelmed because like, well, now I got to fix 10 things or 7 things or 3 things. So I love that. Um, I think that's also part of one of the last things I wanted to ask you about. I think it lends into this
And we
is
could keep going, bro, too, if you need more time. Like I
no,
said,
no,
no,
this is good.
no
This is
sweat.
good. It feels
Okay.
fluid, and I want to respect that you do have daddy time after this, which is important to me. So what I wanted to ask you about is the last one. So, and that's because I'm privy to know as we become better friends, like you run these epic outdoor mastermind retreats. I'm going to give you space to talk to them, but I'm curious in how much that shows up for entrepreneurs or even just people that are hustling and don't have um, enough happiness, whatever that means to them, or even from the assessment, if it's kind of clear as they reflect, like, oh shoot, like I've got some things to look at. How impactful is the nature piece?
I mean, for most people, it can absolutely transform their reality.
Right?
There was a study done. It's called the 3 day effect, in
Yes.
essence, and you know about it, I'm
I
sure. But like the mental, physical, and emotional benefits of being in nature for 3 days
Mhm.
are exponential, reducing cortisol, increasing endorphins, like grounding yourself to nature, tuning your circadian rhythm. There's so many benefits to like we were born to be outside.
That's
We
it.
evolved outside and here we are. Like it's such a sad thing, but they say we spend now most, and this is the majority, but I don't know what the latest stat is, but just Americans alone spend 97% of our time indoors.
Right.
Like it's like insane, but that's the world we live in. Actually, I should connect you with a buddy of mine. He has this company called Nature Quant. He's out of Colorado,
Mm.
and he can quantify your nature exposure. And if you plug in your address, he'll tell you your nature score in your neighborhood. I had him on my
Wow.
podcast. It was pretty cool.
Dude.
But
Yeah.
I think he's in Boulder. But anyway, the point is nature is imperative. If you're feeling like a little depressed or overwhelmed or anxious, like nature is thy remedy oftentimes.
Yes. So I could spend a lot of time talking about that. I'm just gonna wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. The 3 day effect became very real for me, Cary. And my buddy Chris out here, who's one of the guys that does the Colorado
Nice.
FRD events with me. And what we've been toying with, and I don't have enough data yet, or experience is a better word to know, is like, is there a way to do it faster, and not for the sake of speed, because that's what our ego brain wants to do. Like, well, how do I get it faster, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And gratification, but more so, can I have those micro doses of it? And like for me, which is why I scored a 5 there, like I walk daily. I let my dogs inform me, like, yo, it's time to walk. Let's go. Yep,
Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Gotta get off this thing, this computer, right? I sit in silence. I lay in the ground. I was telling you before we record, like sometimes when I'm feeling like I'm holding a lot of energy, especially, I go and give it back to the earth. Like, hey, it's your turn to have this, to transfer it. And I like, not only do I subscribe to nature for a lot of answers, rest, rejuvenation, but why your work with entrepreneurs in the backcountry and the other experiences you create is so important to me is that I actually think it's essentially the antidote. Like, we can give people playbooks or systems or diets, and that's great. There's a place for that. But I've seen nature do things that some of that stuff takes a long time to do, right? Whereas like 3 days in nature, bro, or even better, a 5 day, boom, like I've just seen people wake up and I'm like, yes, like you forgot about this. To use your words, this is where we're from,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where we belong. Yet you
Yeah.
stay in the building all day and you don't even touch the fucking earth for a
Yeah.
whole 24 hours. Like, how crazy is that?
I know. I know. It's sad, honestly, to me. But it's the reality, and you know what? It's only getting worse.
Yes.
That's the worst part, you know? So it's just people like you who remind others to get out in nature and how much better you can feel, I think is like such a needed voice in the world. And I know you speak on many different topics, but the space in nature, I think, is a conversation worth having for everyone. It's
Damn it.
a game changer.
Dude, totally. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's the best thing about being a new dad?
Oh man, the smiles he gives me,
Yeah.
like what now he's starting to get a little personality, and like the level of love that I feel as, and I know again it's cliche, like people say, oh, you know, you just won't know until your first kid. Well, it is true. Like you're like, what is this feeling? It's crazy. It's pure bliss and joy. And honestly, man, I just had a guest on my podcast, and she was like, a newborn baby is the closest thing to God's creation.
Mm,
And she was like, my son, or it was either her son or her friend's son, went up to her new baby and was like, he was like a 4 year old, and the new baby was, you know, maybe, I don't know, early, you know, maybe a week or two old. And the 4 year old said, can you tell me what God is like? I'm starting to forget, because,
mm,
you know, like he just knew intuitively this baby came from God's creation, and it's like this most purest form of love, and a miracle at that. And so now I even look at my son with that pure blessing. Obviously, waking up in the middle of the night and like the crying and the soothing, you know, it's definitely the most challenging thing I've ever done. That's for sure. But the most rewarding, and yeah, those high highs from the smile.
it is. So not only did you paraphrase something that I've recited often when people ask me about fatherhood, I say it's the most rewarding and challenging thing I've experienced. But
Mm,
also, I kid you not, literally earlier today, I had a call with a couple other good friends, and this group, the three of us, we like to geek out on consciousness. And I'm sharing this with you because I brought up this scale that someone created around different levels of consciousness. And it's like at the low end, it's where we just operate from fear, like I said earlier. And the high end, it's like into the realm of enlightenment, full consciousness, things that become very spiritual, very godlike. And I told these guys, I was like, very recently, a few weeks ago, I was with a newborn, very close to Kaizen's age. I think the newborn
Mm,
was like 4 months, and I was
mm.
observing this child, Gary, and I was like, this child is so present and so awake and aware. Like, and I
Yeah,
was like feeling its energy, even
yeah.
though it couldn't say anything. It couldn't really emote much other than if it was hungry, and at the time it wasn't. And I was like, guys, we start that way. And then we get into this messy world of figuring out our shit and feeling our emotions and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all these things. And then, like, some of us choose to find a path back up that way. So it's this really interesting
It
journey.
is. It is.
You're there, like Kaizen's there, like you get
Yeah,
the gift of just watching and observing him, man.
yeah, yeah. They're definitely our greatest teachers, children. So yeah, and I know you know it.
Oh,
It's
I'm on that train for sure.
yeah, man.
Well, we are getting close to time. Are you up for a few rapid fire fun questions?
Let's do it.
Sweet. First one, what's your favorite book?
The Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, have it tatted on my arms. It took it to heart so hard. Like
Nice.
peaceful and then warrior.
Dude, I like that. Those are two
The yin and
powerful
yang.
words.
Yeah,
Yes. Two powerful words to be
yeah.
together. All right. Number two, what animal would you be if not human?
Cheetah.
Well, that was fast. Pun
Like a
intended.
cheetah.
Why? Why? How do you know that so quickly?
I just feel connected to cheetahs. You know, they're pack animals, yet they're vigilant protectors, and they also, have attributes that I admire.
Cool. I dig
Yeah.
that. Finally, brother, what's one of your favorite childhood memories?
Hmm. Uh, I would say, obviously, along the lines of nature, camping out. We
Mm,
used to, as kids, we would go, a whole bunch of families, like 30 families would get together, and it was called like Indian Guides. I don't know why. It's probably not PC. But we would go and like pick a different camp place every month, and like the families would just, the parents would go run amok and like, party and drink and sit by the campfire, and the kids would do whatever they want. And we were just like,
freedom!
I mean, we were swimming with alligators in Florida. We were
Oh, wow.
crawling under the stage at the Swanee River Music Festival, like, just shooting bow and arrows, firing BB guns, like just a great way to grow up, in that sense for camping. And yeah, a lot of fun was had on those camp trips.
I see it in your smile.
Yeah,
I see what that brought back as you were digging for it, and you got it pretty fast. Um,
yeah,
oh man, that sounds so much fun. Yeah, camping, dude. I took my kiddos on their first real camping trip last year with a good buddy of mine
nice.
and his son, and it combines some of the things we've talked about. Man, you put kids in nature, especially camping, where like we had access to a lake, we had a nice little hike.
Yeah,
It's the smallest things, man. It's the fire. It's the sleeping bags. It's the, hey, Dad, watch me skip the rock. Like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
dude, these are the things that, like we've discussed earlier, a lot like reground us to where we're from.
yeah,
And I, camping in particular, like because it's a activity that involves a lot of us and like some communion, like everything else for me just fades away.
so yeah, same.
I was telling my kiddos when because they were so mesmerized by the fire and like playing with it. And we have fires in our home, but it's different around a campfire, right? It's
True.
not like a stoved wood burning fire. And I was like, "Do you know what people did before TV?" They're like, "What?" I'm like, "This."
Yeah, yeah,
They watched the fire, which
yeah,
I can do for hours, and they told stories.
same. Yeah, they call it redneck television.
Yeah,
That's it.
it's coming back, bro. Redneck television
Yeah.
is back.
Let's bring it back.
All right, man. This was a gift. I knew it would be. I think it's one of many conversations and experiences. I'm going to get out to Montana. It's just a matter of when.
Please.
And
Doors always open.
Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate you. Sending you lots of love and light, and everyone out there, lots of love and light as well.
Awesome.